Today on the channel, we got a long overdue, twicely long overdue video. Today, we're looking at two great tastes that go great together. In my opinion, they're meant to be together. G.I. Joe and the Transformers, Decepticon Soundwave Dreadnought Thunder Machine. Say that 2 times fast. On the way I got it figured.
The way I got it figured.
What's up, figure fans? I got it figured, back with another Transformers and G.I. Joe review, all in one. This time we're looking at the Soundwave Dreadnought Thunder Machine. So I picked this figure up at Ross last year, so it probably came out like very early part of 2024, I think, if not very late 2023. And I actually did an unboxing of the first one and the second one, which was Megatron and the Baroness and Bumblebee and Stalker, respectively, over on Crossfire Collectibles with my buddy Phil. But I wasn't able to schedule up with him to do the other ones. And that's why you've never really seen them on this channel, because I was doing those over there with him. But I picked this figure up. He was $24.99 at Ross sometime last year. And I'm going to show you $24.99 at Ross. And, you know, you can still get it. It's not unobtainable, or you don't have to just necessarily go buy it on eBay. But that's where I saw it for. I bought it there. But because, you know, I don't really have the rest of them. And I want to say there's something that I would like to have all of them. But, you know, you can't get everything. I just can't get everything. You know, and they're not, you know, they're not exactly cheap. Like $24.99 is a great price for this, but that's not what they charge for it. It's something like $60, maybe even more than that. You know, so I just can't get everything. But I wanted to review this, and I have the Cup and Sergeant Slaughter review as well. That is coming from a good buddy of mine. I'm going to shout him out in the comment section, so there'll be a link to his stuff. I ended up saying, well, you know, he's got all of these except for the Soundwave and Thunder Machine. So I made a deal with him, and this is going to go to him, as well as me returning the Cup and Sergeant Slaughter Triple T back to him when I'm done with these. So there's that. Another thing about these that I always kind of wanted to do, you know, when I think of my sort of little in headcanon universe of things, you know, you want to have interaction, or I want to have interaction between G.I. Joe and Cobra and the Autobots and Decepticons, because again, like, I'm pretty sure Hasbro almost as always just sort of thought of this as all as just one universe for them. There's signs that point to that in various places. But when you get this collaborative Transformers X G.I. Joe, there's just no better thing for them to put together. The next closest thing I would say that could be just as good is like G.I. Joe in humanoids, or Transformers G.I. Joe in humanoids. And from the Sunbow standpoint, that's exactly where the connection of the in-universe lies. The on Transformers, Hector Ramirez's first appearance was on Prime Target, and then he appeared on G.I. Joe in a couple of episodes with an altered appearance, and he became sort of like this sensationalist reporter. He also appeared on Inhumanoids, and he also appeared on Gem. So Hector Ramirez is like the glue that holds everything together if you go strictly Sunbow. Yes, Transformers did later have Old Snake and Marissa Fairborn in the 2005 era of Transformers, which still would get you to the same place. But Hector Ramirez was doing it first in 1985, so that's where that goes. All right, so history lesson over. We're going to dive into Soundwave and the Thunder Machine with Zarana and Zartan, and let's get started. So you got this great and awesome packaging, Transformers. You got Soundwave with Ravage, and then you got the Thunder Machine with uh, Zartan and Zarana. And this was the first set, I think, where they started putting two figures in, because the previous one just come with one. So, now you're getting two, really three if you count the Ravage. And the Ravage itself is it's in a masterpiece Ravage. So it's a pretty big figure. It's definitely going to be bigger than anything in War for Cybertron for sure. The package art is awesome. I don't know who did the G.I. Joe side, but the usual Marcelo Marter artwork is over here. And the Thunder Machine has the classic explosion on there, even though in 1986 they actually had that's the first year of the digital fire or whatever. But whatever. It's the original backing and the original backing, so it makes sense. And on top, you got the various modes in a classic style with the G.I. Joe old style, how everything appeared on that box as well. On the G.I. Joe side, you got the Dreadnought Thunder Machine. On the Transformer side, you got Soundwave. And on the back, you have the various things you can do with it. They can ride on Soundwave's back in robot mode, which basically they're just sticking their feet in the cockpit, it looks like. But, and of course they can drive them. It's a Thunder Machine. So I do think they do a really good job with these, because when they transform into the mode of whatever they change into from the robot, it's like a almost 1-to-1. It's pretty much a 1-to-1 to the G.I. Joe vehicle. So you know, they definitely focused on making it be, if you don't transform this Soundwave into the robot, it's a Thunder Machine. If you put it next to the 1986 Thunder Machine, besides decos and stuff, it's going to look spot on. It's going to look like the same vehicle. So I think they have done a really good job with, pinning a transformer underneath all of that. I know a lot of people want their G.I. Joe separated, their Transformers separated or whatever, but I personally don't care about that. But I'm not saying I want everything to be connected or whatever, but I definitely like things like this. And if I don't know, come into some large chunk of change, I might go back and get all of these, because I love both of these properties, not necessarily equally, but almost equally. I mean, G.I. Joe is definitely in the triumvirate. Transformers maybe at the top. But yeah, you got Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, and Marvel. If you guess you make that Marvel, DC, they would be on the same thing. So you'd have kind of like a diamond, right? But Transformers at the top of the diamond, Marvel be at the bottom of the diamond. G.I. Joe and Star Wars would be on the sides of the diamond. So yeah, I'm very excited. Looks like it changes in 33 steps. We're going to get this thing out and see what we can see. All right, so we've got Soundwave out of the package. Both basic form. I haven't attached anything to them. I did attach the Gatling guns to the Gatling gun, the barrels to the Gatling gun, just to save some space. But this is everything he comes with. You got your Masterpiece Ravage. You got your leash for Masterpiece Ravage, which actually was released way back during the other Transformers G.I. Joe crossovers, where the Baroness had like a Ravage. It was also Masterpiece Ravage. And you got your Thunder, your roll cage for the Thunder Machine, a very Dreadnought like knife for Soundwave, your antenna for the Thunder Machine, your Thunder Machine engine, which I guess is also going to double as some kind of sonic weapon for Soundwave. And yeah. And of course, you got Zartan and Zarana, who are not open, but I'm going to open them when we get to them, when we get to that part of the video. So, yeah. So, I'm going to take a minute to go through everything, which was always sort of what I was worried about with this video, is that this and, there's a lot to cover. Phil and I took quite a bit of time on Crossfire Collectibles doing the two we did together. So, there's that. But, it's pretty much Soundwave. Looks pretty cool. Yeah, he's got some Thunder Machine bits hanging off of him, but it's pretty cool. And I like that he's not right around the same height as the Masterpiece figure. So, you can pretty much use some Masterpiece figures if you want to. Use them with some old 3 3/4 inch Joes, and you'll probably be close enough for government work. So there you go there. Liking that idea more and more. But as for Soundwave itself, yes, it is a reasonable facsimile of Soundwave. It it's gonna be sort of hollow, and I remember Megatron being like kind of hollow, but they seem like they've done a little bit to improve that. But there's gonna be hollow because you have to change this thing into a G.I. Joe vehicle that passes as a G.I. Joe vehicle. So you're going to have that. It has to be hollow simply because the characters have to be able to ride inside it, for one thing. But despite that, the weight of the figure is pretty good. It doesn't feel like it's cheap or substandard. And, the hollowness is a necessity. If you're going to be sitting there staring at Sound with the back of Soundwave's legs, you probably got some other problems. But I think that, as a toy, it's a pretty cool toy. So I guess we'll look at his articulation. So he can do a T pose. All I'm trying to do is do a T pose. Go a little bit extra with this arm over here. There you go. So he can do that. He can kick pretty good. Got a 90-degree knee. I don't detect. His feet are like literally the seats, and there doesn't appear to be a rocker. But he does have leg swivel, and he does not have a waist turn. So you're going to lose some articulation once again because it has to transform into a G.I. Joe vehicle for G.I. Joes to ride in. So you're going to lose a little bit of that. But you get most of the arm rotations and things that you need. You get them. No wrist swivel either. But it's a fairly functional as an action figure. How dynamic are the poses gonna be? So there's that. And then trying to gear them up a little bit, make them presentable. Sticking that on the shoulder. Give them the Gatling guns. Ooh, if you can get them in there. My fault, not his. Grab a knife. That's not a knife. This is a knife. You have Soundwave going sort of full Dreadnought in addition to being a Thunder Machine. These probably go somewhere, but I'll figure that out a little bit later. We know they go on the car. I don't know if they go on them in robot mode. Same with the antenna. Then you got Ravage here. Here's your standard Masterpiece Ravage. Now you got Ravage there, and it actually dawns on me that I probably should have put him in Soundwave's chest while he was in cassette mode, because of course he does have the opening chest to do that. So silly me. Hopefully I'll do that in a bit. Yeah, he does have that gimmick. But yeah, for what it is, I mean, it looks pretty good. So next we'll get out Zartan and Zarana and take a look at them. All right, so we're back. This time we're going to open up the two included G.I. Joe figures. These are reproductions of the 1984 and 1986 Zartan and Zarana, even though I have them in reverse order here. Zartan comes with all of the stuff he came with, minus the chameleon, and Zarana comes with the original items that she came with, except her backpack wasn't black, and there was a variant of the backpack. So yeah, it's her backpack, but it's black. So we got the cards just like we do with any other G.I. Joe review. We're going to go over these packages as well. We'll start with Zarana. We'll go from left to right. So you got your Zarana card, 1986 style, with the, even the correct explosion, the digital explosion around her. On the back, you got, the Thunder Machine. And she has her little bio, which now is the multi-language bios that I hate. Not that I hate multi-language, but it's just a super condensed version of what the bio was. So Zarana Roll, Dreadnought Mercenary, known associates Zartan and Xandar, brothers, birthplace unknown. Zarana is a professional assassin who gains access to her victims through skillful acting and masterful use of makeup and disguise. We have Zartan, the enemy. Same thing, but on the back, Zartan reads, Zartan Roll Mercenary, primary specialty infiltration, secondary specialty disguise, birthplace unknown. Zartan is a master of makeup and disguise, a ventriloquist, a linguist, an acrobatic contortionist, and a practitioner of several mystic martial arts. That's them in a nutshell. So we're going to get these guys out of their package and check them out. All right, so we got Zartan and Zarana out of the package, and they are mostly faithful reproductions of the original figures, but there are some changes. So Zarana, Zartan, and Xandar in their original releases had the same exact arms. So they had the arms sort of like Zartan's, but these are not the original arms that Zartan had. They made new arms for Zartan. And the three Zartan siblings had those exact same arms. Now her arms are bare, and she has a tattoo on there, which you did see on the box. So they did alter the artwork for that. And Zartan is mostly, yes. No, I can't. I can't. I'm shooting a video, please. Ask me about some damn points. Zartan is mostly faithful to himself, but he does have altered arms. These are not the original arms. I mean, they look like Zartan arms. Don't get me wrong, but they're new arms. Zartan has one of the hardest sets of weapons and accessories to complete, largely because he had the uh, snap-on sort of leg panels, and his gun was always notoriously hard to keep. Of course, I had all of this stuff, but um, they clearly could reproduce it, so there it is. Don't know what that's going to do to the original market on these. If you want an original Zartan, now you're not going to be sure whether or not you're getting a repro gun or if it's the original gun. So there's that. Of course, Zartan has this chest plate, and that initially came off back in 1984, but this one has been glued on, which is better considering the other and probably the biggest change to these figures is that they do not color change in sunlight or anything like that. So, there's no turning blue on these figures due to the photosensitive technology they had in them. But other than that, they're, certainly passable 1/18 scale. I mean, they're not they're passable for the characters. They're not passable for the originals, but they work for this set. Is what I'm trying to get out. So that's them. So next thing we'll do, I guess, is get them geared up, and then and come back with them geared up and Soundwave transformed into the Thunder Machine. Be right back. All right, so one broken nail later, we got ourselves a Dreadnought Thunder Machine, and it is pretty faithful, reproduction of the original vehicle. There's a little bit of sound wave you might be able to see in there, but you got to really be looking for it. And while the transformation isn't like what I would call like, a difficult transformation, it is difficult to execute in a sense because some of the tabs is like very difficult. I actually broke a nail trying to get something to stay in, trying to force something in. But once you get it there, you got a Thunder Machine, and all the way right down to the tow hook, you're pretty good with that. So rolls nice. Sorry, Ravage, and everything like that. Still got your gold wing kind of doors, and you're ready to do some G.I.Joe battles or Beyond Thunderdome, Mad Max battles, or whatever it is you want to do. And you got a little sound wave riding on the bottom. So basically all the sound wave bits are like literally on the bottom. So we got our Joes, or our Cobras as it were, enemies, geared up. And so now that we have that, we're gonna stick them in the Thunder Machine. We might even do it just like the box has it, where Zarana sort of drive it and Zartan's hanging on the side. Yeah, one of the cool things about the Thunder Machine is it's supposed to carry 4 guys, 2 in the vehicle itself proper, and 2 on the sides. There you go. One of the things I do appreciate about these figures is, we got the 25th anniversary and 50th anniversary lines of G.I.Joe, and those figures are like 4-inch figures. Nice detail and everything. They were supposed to be improvements on the original formula of G.I. Joe, a real American hero, and in some respects they were. But one of the things that you do run into with those figures is a lot of them don't fit in the vehicles. They're too big. So these vehicles were made for these figures, and so, in a sense, that makes it better that they're using these figures to go with the vehicles, because it's a lot more of a natural fit. So there's your Thunder Machine. Oh, forgot to do something. Yeah, you could hold 6 guys on the Thunder Machine, not 4. You got the tabs to go there for that. Now it's done. But the whole point is, the Dreadnoughts can ride on the side. You had Torch Ripper, Buzzard, Monkey Wrench. They could just ride on the side. Of course, we don't get Thrasher with this vehicle, in favor of the much more popular Zartan and Zarana. But, if you got a Thrasher laying around somewhere, you can certainly have him driving his vehicle. So there you go. So now that we've got that done, we're going to get this guy transformed back into Soundwave and do some comparisons. All right, so we got Soundwave back in robot mode with all of his accessories strapped to him here or there. And yeah, I guess that's cool. You can have the roll cage on his arms. I don't know if I like it like that, but you can definitely put them on there. Kind of the finished product. I guess you're taking them off. We'll take them off. I think it looks kind of dopey like that. And in the back, you can store Zartan and Zarana, even though I have not done it correctly. There's a panel inside the light bar on the Thunder Machine, and if you put them in a seated position, you can eventually futz with them enough that you can get their feet on the pegs, and they will just sort of sit on Soundwave's back, like this. But I don't really care about it. But you can do it. It can be done if you have the patience for it. Personally, I like to see how they look beside him, not really riding them. And of course, all these figures have the means to allow them to be ridden as robots, for more playability. So you go there. Everybody looks cool together. Now we're going to try and do, I guess, a couple of comparisons here, just to kind of give you some ideas. So Soundwave stands just about the same height, not quite. He's a little taller as a Thunder Machine, but he stands just about the same height as Masterpiece Soundwave. I'm going to clear Zartan out here a little bit. And of course, it's a comparison that lends itself when you're literally getting a Masterpiece Ravage that goes in his chest. I got Soundwave a little bit farther back, so if you look at it in the camera, it doesn't look as close, but it really is. He's not that much larger than Soundwave. And so we'll follow. He's probably not going to be that much larger than Megatron. So basically, I guess what I'm getting at is you could Theoretically, if you wanted to do stop motions and stuff like I do, you could have your 1/18 scale GI Joes next to some Transformers, and it won't look wildly off. So there's that. Kind of makes me want to do something else. Bring in maybe a. Woo! And that's what happens when you have seats for feet. But point is, if you bring in Masterpiece Bumblebee, he weirdly looks about the right height from what he is in the show compared to Spike. You don't really have a 1/18 scale Spike, but you get the gist. Doesn't look incredibly far off. That's cool. So what we'll do now is get Soundwave back into character and get you some final thoughts. Final thoughts on G.I. Joe X Transformers Soundwave Dreadnought Thunder Machine with Zartan and Zarana. Hey, I like it. I mean, these figures aren't perfect. They don't have, there's certain articulation you're not going to get and everything, but they're loaded with play value, and it's sort of like a dream come true for a kid that was playing with both of these lines back in the day in 1984, 1986, and beyond. So, and before the GI Joe's case, and I can't get them because I can't get everything. I'd rather stick to my dedicated G.I. Joe and Transformers lines. But, if I hit a nice little lump sum of money here and there, bonus at work, something like that, I can see going back and getting these. They're not super expensive, um, just to have them. And Hasbro is continuing with them. The rumored next figure is Optimus Prime as a Mobat tank. So, there's going to be that. I'm sure my buddy will get them, and so um, I'll probably be reviewing that on the channel as well. So I'm happy with it. Unfortunately, this isn't really my copy to keep forever, but I think it's cool and has given me ideas for perhaps a GI Joe Transformers crossover using some of my masterpiece figures. I have no issues with that. Um, but it's always good to have something dedicated that actually is that to do as well. And I personally love the idea. So that's for me. I'm gonna give the figure and the set overall I'll give it a 9 because the Zartan and Zarana are really nice. Obviously, you get another masterpiece, Ravage with it, and if you turn it into a Thunder Machine, it's a Thunder Machine. It's pretty much a Thunder Machine. So you get a lot of play value here. So I'm gonna say a 9 set for that. So that'll do it for this one. Next week we will have the Sergeant Slaughter and Cup 2-pack. Same deal. We'll do that one next week because these take a couple of hours to do. Really, it's a lot to go over. So you'll see that next week. So till next video, everybody stay safe. Happy collecting. Peace. All right, so we got Ravage in cassette mode. And we're going to stick them in Soundwave's chest like that so that you get to see that action. I almost forgot it, so I wanted to make sure it was in the video. All right, here we go.
The way I got it figured.